So let us look at this year's essay paper. Pardon? No, not now. After that, we will do it later. No, in our other classes, not now. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let us look at this year's essay paper. So what are the again observations we can make about this year paper? The first thing is that UPSC is continuing with the same pattern which they have introduced from last year. That is, section A is all about essays related to ethics or philosophy. I said philosophy but not philosophers. Difference is there. Related to philosophy, either ethics or philosophy. Whereas in section B, if you look at it is mostly current events. In section B, it is mostly current events. So that is the reason why, if you look at last year, the marks in essay paper are less compared to previous years. In 2017, people have got even 175 out of 250 marks in essay in 2017, because in 2017 essay papers were both the sections mostly current affairs only. If you are good with your polity, economy and society, you could have answered in international relations, you could have answered all the essays. But from last year onwards, UPSC changed the essays. That is the reason why last year average score in essay was around 135 marks only. It had come down drastically. Obviously, it should be like that also. Otherwise, if you are giving 175 marks out of 250 means it is ridiculous. So obviously, UPSC has changed the strategy from last year onwards, which could be seen immediately in terms of the performance also. And last year also the essays topics in the section A were difficult. Why? Because nobody expected those kind of topics. This year also they are difficult, even when people expected those topics. So that is what the beauty about this examination is, that you know that what is going to come, but you don't know what to do also. You know that tsunami is there, you don't know what to do. So how to tackle these kind of things? Obviously, if you are good with your ethics paper, you will definitely do well in your section A. That is the reason why I keep on saying ethics is very, very important, because with ethics, at least one essay, you will definitely be sure about it. 125 marks, if you are good with your ethics paper. If you look at the first 4 essays, all of them are related to the syllabus in your ethics paper. For example, if you look at it, values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. This is what you study in your ethics. Or best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. Again, those who have attended our ethics classes, you can see that the same statement will be there in our notes also, class notes. And then courage to accept and dedication to improve. This is what we keep on saying all the time in the classes. But the only problem is that how can you write 1000 to 1200 words? That is where the problem is. You can practice as many essays as you want, but in the UPSC examination, especially this philosophy is like an ocean. You can be preparing only the drops. That is where the problem is. That is the reason why, instead of preparing for the topics, you have to prepare from a very general or a generic point of view, macro perspective, so that you can answer, whatever may be the topic. How to do that? Let us try to, see by answering these essays. Now, if you look at the first one, wisdom finds truth. Here, first of all, you have to understand what is the meaning of the statement. Wisdom finds truth. What do you mean by that? What does it mean? What is truth and what is the true wisdom here? And how our wisdom helps in finding the truth. So this is what we study in our ethics paper. What do we say? We say that since the beginning of human civilization, the most important challenging task that we always found is what exactly is the truth. All especially we are talking about the philosophical aspects. We are not talking about physical or in other things. We are talking about metaphysical. We are talking about philosophical aspects. The endeavor since the beginning of civilization, in almost all civilizations, whether it is Greek, Roman, Hindu, or whatever may be the civilization, they have been trying to find out what is the truth. What is this universal truth? Sometimes we call it as God. Sometimes we call it as nature. But what exactly is this truth? That is what we say. That is what again we study in our ethics paper. What is the essence of human life? The essence of human life is finding out this one. The essence of human life is finding out the purpose of our life. That is finding out the truth, which will help us to lead our life, which will help us to lead our life in a more peaceful and happier manner. Western philosophers, they believed that it is the happiness which is the essence of our life, to remain happy. They felt that the truth lies in happiness. And Indian philosophers, they went beyond this, and they said that the essence of human life is finding about the true identity about ourselves. That is what is called finding out about the eternal truth of life. What is this eternal truth of life? Why we have come into this world? Why did we come into this world? And what should we do before we die? What is the purpose of our life? Because any human being who takes birth, this is what it is clearly written in Vedas, in Sanskrit. I don't want to repeat whatever the terms in Sanskrit because you may not be able to understand. Let me give you the translation. It says that of all the species in this world, human beings are extremely special. You have thousands, lakhs of species in this world. Human beings are special. Why human beings are special? Because only human beings, can know the essence of life. You cannot expect a dog to find out the essence of life because it does not have the wisdom. You cannot expect snakes. The rest of the species on this earth, they live only for survival. Whereas it is the only human beings, who have the ability to rise above survival and think about higher aspects of life. Why? Because God has given us the ability to think. So ultimately the question is, what we want to achieve in our life. That is what we say in Hinduism, finding out about true identity. That is what is called self-realization or self-actualization. That is the entire journey of human life can be described in terms of finding out this eternal truth of life. What is the eternal truth of life ultimately? Realizing the fact that you are none other than the God itself. There is no difference between you and God. That is what is called Advaita philosophy. What is Advaita philosophy? There is no difference between you and God. The spirit within you, what you call the inner spirit, is the same as the divine spirit. Your antaratma is the same as a divine soul, that is called God. This is what the journey of human life. And in this journey of our life, we will realize we can differentiate between what is true and what is not. For example, that is what Adi Shankaracharya says. He says that the entire world is full of myth. Whatever we see in front of us is not a reality. It is full of myth. Why? Because the sense of duality we experience in our life What is the sense of duality we are talking about here? You think that the other person sitting next to us is different from us. And Adi Shankaracharya says that it is not true. And what is true? The other person is not different from you. Because the soul in other person is the same as your own soul. Bodies are different. This is what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa explained beautifully by giving examples. What did he say? He said that you take 100 pots full of water and you see the sun, the reflection of sun in those 100 pots. You feel that there are 100 different suns in the sky, but there is only one sun, but 100 different shades of sun. In the same manner, we see that there are billions of human beings on this earth, but the reality is that there is only one soul. That is what the ultimate truth of life. And that is the journey of life. That is what Hinduism says. It says that ultimate objective of humankind, mankind, is to travel inside, find out the real identity of yourself. That is what is also called universal truth. There is no difference between you and the other person. And the other person and you are none other than what you call gods. That is what it is. Now the question here is that, how can we realize that truth? We can realize that truth only by acquiring necessary knowledge and wisdom. We can realize the truth only by acquiring that necessary knowledge and wisdom. This is what Aristotle again says. He says that he differentiates between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is the ability to acquire the knowledge. Wisdom is the ability to put that knowledge into practice. Intelligence is the ability to acquire knowledge, whereas wisdom is the ability to put that knowledge into practice. Intelligence may not help you to know about the truth. Intelligence may not help you to find out about the truth. It is the wisdom that will help you to realize the universal truth of life. And how this wisdom helps you? As I said, this is what Hindu philosophy says. It says that you can realize God through 4 different yogas. Jnana yoga, bhakti. Then you have a karma yoga. Then Raj yoga. All of them talk about putting everything into practice. Putting everything into practice. Because as I said, as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says that through karma yoga, we can easily attain salvation. That is, through karma yoga, we can easily find out the real essence of life, real identity of ourselves. And how can this be done? Through detachment. It can be done through detachment. He says that we must attach ourselves to the work that we are performing and not to the outcome of the work. And for example, you take your own preparation. Why you don't have peace of mind? You don't have peace of mind for the simple reason that you attach yourself so much to the outcome of what you are doing. You always think about whether you clear this examination or not. You always think about what will happen if you don't clear the examination. You always think about what will I get after clearing the examination. You attach yourself so much to the outcome. That is where your wisdom should help you. That is what Krishna says. He says that attach yourself to the work you are performing and you will find real happiness. You will find real happiness only when you attach yourself to the work that you are performing. On the other hand, if you attach yourself to the outcome of the work, you will never be able to realize the universal truth of life. That is what he says. This can be possible with detachment. But again, as I said, theoretically, all of us know these things. Theoretically, we know that we can never find real happiness when we attach ourselves to materialistic comforts or human beings, because all of them are perishable. There is only one thing that is permanent in this world, that is nature, or you can call it as God. Rest of it is perishable. So, how can we, how can we make sure that we are not attaching ourselves all to these perishable, perishable aspects of our human life? For example, your friends, your parents, your acquaintances, they will never come with you. They will be never be there in your journey of life from beginning to end. That is where you have to realize, you must acquire that wisdom. That, if we attach ourselves to these relationships, it will only give you temporary pleasure, but never permanent happiness. But never permanent happiness. When can you have that permanent happiness? Only when you attach yourself to the divineness soul. That is what is called God. And that is what is also the ultimate reality of life. That is what exactly, again, Adi Shankaracharya talks about. He says that once we realize the God within ourselves, then we will always be happy. What is the definition of God? God means happiness. God means love. God means affection. God means selflessness. God means empathy. If you acquire these qualities, you will realize the ultimate truth. You will realize the fact that you don't require either people or materialistic comforts or name, fame, position, status for you to remain happy. Because all the other things that we have said, today you are a rich person. There is no guarantee that tomorrow you will retain those riches. You can see, the other day you must have seen in newspapers this Thomas Cook, this tourist, well-known ordination. It has been there for 150 years, more than 150 years. It has collapsed, right? Similarly, the position, power and status, it will be there with you today. Tomorrow, it may not be there. Chidambaram was very powerful, home minister. Now he is in jail. Because that is what is life, Sometimes you have something, sometimes you lose everything. And this is what again in Mahabharata, Krishna talks about. He says that Yudhishthir, the eldest of Pandavas, he is known as a Sthita Prajna. Who is a Sthita Prajna? Prajna. A person who takes everything in life in the same manner. Success, failure, respect, deception. Everything in life in the same manner. And that is what we call the ultimate truth. You realize the fact that whatever that you see in front of us is not the reality. The reality is something else. And the entire journey, as I keep on saying, is about finding out this truth. And how can you find out this truth? As I said, by acquiring the necessary knowledge and wisdom. As I said, knowledge and wisdom, both of them are different. You can acquire the knowledge with the help of your intelligence. But putting that knowledge into practice is what we call wisdom, which ultimately helps you. As I said, in the entire, after the entire Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has taken so much of pain to explain the essence of Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, wherein he said that the only reality of this world is, the eternal truth is, nobody is attached to no one else. You must find real peace only in detachment. And you should not have any unnecessary emotions and attachments or feelings. That is what he says. And after the Mahabharata war is over, the war was going on. Then Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son, was killed by Kauravas through treachery. And Abhimanyu was one of the greatest young warriors at that point of time. He could have become the emperor. He had all the qualities, but he was killed. When Arjuna saw the dead body of his son, he could not console himself. He started crying very loudly, and people around him could not console him. So they requested Krishna to come there and console Arjun. Krishna went there, and looking at Arjun, Krishna also started crying. Then the people asked him the question. We can understand Arjun crying because he is a human being. It is difficult for him to overcome the emotions and attachments and sentiments. But you are God. Gods do not have any emotions or sentiments or attachments. Why are you crying? Krishna replied simply. He said that I took so much of pain to explain the essence of detachment and the ultimate truth of life and the ultimate truth of life to Arjun. In spite of getting all this guidance from me directly, Arjun could not put that into practice. I am thinking about future generations. That is the reason why I am crying. That is where this comes, wisdom. It is very difficult to talk about these things. What is this detachment? You have to stand in front of the dead body of your loved ones and say that all these human relations are part of myth. That is what the essence, that is what is wisdom. How many of us can do it? That is the reason why Krishna was crying for humanity. He said that Arjun, who is a part of my soul, could not understand this essential truth of life. What happened to other people in the future generations who always find themselves entangled in these, destructive emotions, who can never find real peace? That is the reason why, if you look at the entire history of human civilization, there are only very few people who could find this eternal truth. You can talk about someone like Jesus Christ. That is the reason why at the just before he died, the comment he made, he said that he requested God, please pardon those people who are causing harm to me, because they don't know what they are doing. That is what is the eternal truth of life. We must be able to excuse. We must be able to pardon. We must be able to, take everything in a humanitarian perspective. We love our own people. We must be able to love those people who are causing harm to us also. That is what is called divinity. And that is the reason why you have, since the beginning of civilization, we had only one Jesus Christ, one Gautam Buddha, one Mahavir Jain, one Pavan Kumar. Okay. The last one is more important, because rest of the people you have not seen it. So that is why, it is very difficult, because as I said, everyone can read the religious scriptures. All of us can read, Bhagavad Gita or Bible or, Quran or Guru Granth Sahib. All of them talk about the same thing. They talk about the same eternal truth. But we don't have that wisdom, to put our knowledge into practice. That is the reason why we always live in what is called misconceptions. We never can find out real truth. So what should be done to find out this truth? As I said, as Lord Krishna talks about karma yoga, do your duty without expecting anything in return. That is what is called nishkam karma. Kam means desire. Nishkam means desireless work. You must do your duty without expecting anything in return. Why? Because all the problems, ills, troubles in this world are only because of desire. That is what Gautam Buddha also says. Desire is the root cause of all evils in this world. And that is the reason why Gautam Buddha says, he had only one desire. That is, he wanted to see the world wherein people don't have any desires at all. But unfortunately, it was a desire on the part of Gautam Buddha also. Even he himself could not overcome the desire. Right? Very difficult. Very, very difficult. So this is what you have to write for this kind of essays. But again, as I said, to write this kind of essays, you require good knowledge of, religion and ethics. That is what, again, as I said, that it is not about only a single religion. It is exactly the same in Islam. That is what Christianity also teaches. That is what Buddhism or Jainism or Sikhism, any religion teaches you only to find out the essence of life, ultimate truth of life. And it says that this can be found only through wisdom. In Hinduism, we talk it as Nishkam Karma. In Buddhism, we call it as Ashtanga Marga, eightfold path. In Christianity, we call it as 10 commandments. Every religion talks about those things only. And those who find out this eternal truth are the ones who will be happy forever. They are the ones whom we call as enlightened souls. Enlightened souls. And as I said, this enlightenment is almost impossible, because very difficult to find people with wisdom. You can have people with intelligence, but not wisdom. That is what you have to write for this kind of essays. And of course, those who have attended our ethics classes, they can easily write, because this is what we discuss in our ethics papers. Next, come to the second essay. Values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. Again, this is a statement directly which we can pick up from ethics. We can pick up from ethics. Again, those who have attended our ethics classes, again, they can easily answer these things. So what do we say? What do we say? We say that the most difficult, again, the answer will be the same as the previous one. Answer, the template of your essay will be the same as the previous essay. Third essay also it will be the same. Okay. So what we are saying here, what do we say? Again, these are the statements normally we made in our ethics classes. What we say is that the most difficult thing in this world is to lead the life of a human being. The most difficult in this world is to lead the life of a human being. And what is a human being? What are the characteristics? What are the qualities of a human being? That is the reason why if we lead the life of anything except human beings, we are doctors, we are engineers, we are lawyers, we are IAS officers, we are politicians, but we are never human beings. Why? Because the most difficult thing in this world is to live like a human being, with love, affection, empathy, selflessness, sacrifice. These are the things which we say while talking about human beings. This is how we define human beings. This is how we define human beings. What is the difference, as we keep on saying, between human beings and animals? What is the difference between human beings and animals? The only difference is that human beings have values. The only difference is that human beings have values, whereas animals simply don't have any values. That is the only difference, as we discussed yesterday also in our ethics paper. This is what we have said. The only difference is that we have values. When a snake is hungry, it eats its own children. When a snake is hungry, it eats its own children. When a father or a mother kills their own children, that is what is called animals. For example, this lady, who is spending her time in jail now, she killed her own daughter. What is her name? Because of her only Chidambaram is in jail now. What is her name? Pardon? Indrani Mukherjee. She killed her own daughter. Why did she kill her own daughter? Because there is huge amount of property in the name of her daughter. There is no difference between human beings and animals. Only in case you can say that animals are much more humane than human beings. Why? Because a lion kills another animal only when it is hungry. To satiate their hunger, they kill other animals. Whereas as human beings, we kill others except for hunger, for everything else. That is where human values become extremely important. As we discussed yesterday, what God has given, if you again observe the nature, this nature is full of interesting things, provided if we have the time to observe it. God has given every species on this earth some kind of quality to survive. For example, dogs, they can bite so that people are afraid of them. Lions, Elephants, they have huge amount of strength. Then birds, they can fly. Like that, every species on this earth has been given some unique quality. But the problem with human beings is that we don't have any of those strengths. We cannot run like a deer. We don't have the strength of an elephant. We cannot swim like a fish. And we cannot fly like a bird. To compensate for all these weaknesses, God has given us mind, brain. With this brain, we could conquer the rest of the animal kingdom. Apart from this, as we have said, He also has given us heart. So that we can use this heart to control our brain. And this is the heart where you have all these values are enshrined, human values. Emotions, values, sentiments, everything is related to issues of heart. So coming back here, what we say that, as the statement says here, values are not what humanity is. Values are what humanity ought to be. That is what we say. When we talk about values, there cannot be any compromise with values. Values should always come with should or ought. Values cannot be may or may not. That means giving choices to people. You cannot give choice to people when it comes to values. Either you are a good person or you are a bad person. It is as simple as that. Either you are honest or you are not. You cannot say that I am 50% honest. It is as simple as that. It is these values that define humanity. If you again go back, what we discussed in our ethics class also. How do we learn about these values? We learn about these values by observing, we say, nature. It is the nature which teaches all these values. At the end of the day, it is the nature which teaches. Those who believe in God, they say that it is the God, who gives us values. Those who don't believe in God, they say that it is the nature which gives us values. If you observe the nature, we know about all these values. For example, this is what written in Upanishads. What did they say? They said that the rivers do not drink the water for themselves. Rivers do not drink the water for themselves. Trees do not eat the fruits for themselves. Clouds do not consume the grains, food grains. If you want food grains, you need rain, clouds. They do not eat the grains for themselves. What can we learn from this? By observing the nature. What we can learn from this is that the knowledge and wealth of people should always be used for the benefit of others. This is what values teach us. Knowledge and wealth. We should always use our knowledge and wealth for the benefit of others. For the benefit of others. As I said, as someone said, if you want to know the essence of life, what values we should follow, simply observe a tree. If you look at a tree, it grows on its own. The trees in forests, do you go there and put all the pesticides and chemicals there for them to grow? No. They grow on their own. The first value we have to learn is self-sufficiency. We should not depend on others. It grows on its own. Then, a tree has fruits. If you hit the tree with a stone, if you are hitting a tree with a stone, will the tree take the stone in its hands and start throwing at you with much more velocity? No. Physics laws are only for physics, not for nature. So when you are hitting a tree with a stone, what does the tree give you? It gives you fruits. So what is the lesson that we can learn here? Even if other people are causing harm to us, we should always do good to them. This is what defines humanity. This is what defines humanity. Even if other people are causing harm to us, we should always good to them. We should always think good about them, always do good to them. That is what Jesus Christ also has said. He said that please don't punish those people because they don't know what they are doing. We must have that kind of heart, kind heart to pardon, excuse and help those people who are causing harm to us also. That is what is called divinity. That is what that should define humanity. Next, similarly, if you are taking shelter under a tree, will the tree differentiate between the people? Will the tree say that you are from Pakistan, I am Indian tree, so you are not allowed to take shelter under my shade? They will not say that. Does the tree says that you are a person belonging to backward caste? Indian society is full of untouchability. I must follow that ethical norm also. I will not allow you to take shelter under my shade. They don't differentiate. That is what again human value which you must learn. This is what that again defines what you call humanity. It is the values that define humanity. It is those values what humanity should always be about. Next, again continue with this tree analogy. If you are cutting the tree, the branches of the tree, you can use them for construction of your houses. Even in its destruction and death, tree helps us. That is what, even when we are getting destroyed, even when we are facing the moment of death, we should be helpful to others. That is what the tree teaches us. That is what the essence of life also. This is what exactly what you call humanity. As the essay says, values are not what humanity is. Values are what humanity ought to be. There cannot be any compromise with these kind of values. Either you follow them or you are not called a human being. It is as simple as that one. You cannot say that I will be 50% honest. I will be selfish only up to 75%. After the remaining 25% I will be selfless. You cannot say that I will for me charity begins at home and ends at home only. You cannot show those kind of things. That is what not is called. That is not is called humanity. As I said in the beginning itself, the most difficult thing in this world is to lead the life of a human being. To be a human. Being human is very, very difficult. I am not talking about Salman Khan. Being human is very difficult. Why? Because you have to follow all of them. Again, as I said, when can you realize all these things? Only when you find out about the eternal truth. That is what we discussed in the previous essay. When you realize the fact that all the relationships, all comforts, are nothing but, our own perception, the reality is different. What is comfort for us today, may not be so tomorrow. For example, you have a huge house, mansion, and you have centrally air conditioned rooms, and you have a big foam beds. When you don't have a peace of mind, can you sleep? What is life? Life is only about two things. One is being able to eat whatever you want, being able to sleep whenever you want. Rest of the things in life are not necessary. That is what, what is the point? The other day, I got, this kind of nowadays WhatsApp messages are sometimes they are good also. Sometimes they are good also. It says that a person has spent all his life because, he has seen his, friends and acquaintances from his childhood. They earned a lot of money. His objective in life is to earn again the same amount of money. So he had spent 50 years. He could earn at least 100 times more than what his friends even could imagine also. He felt that he had become successful. So he constructed a house, mansion, 100 crores of rupees house. And he went into the house and everything was over. And then he was about to sleep. In his bedroom he was sleeping. Suddenly his antaratma, inner self comes out. It says that I am leaving you. The time has come for me to leave you. Why? He said, why? Because my body is very good, why are you leaving? This is the best place for you to live in. It says that, your body has become so bad that I don't think I can live in this body for long. Because in all these 50 years of your life, you are only looking for external comforts and pleasure. In the process, you have put yourself to so much of strain. When was the last time you slept peacefully? You have all kinds of problems with your health. High blood pressure, hypertension, all the modern lifestyle diseases because you never ate on time, you never slept on time, you never felt happy about anything else because you always wanted more. Now it has become so depleted that I have no option but to leave your body. That is what we say, essence of life. Again, there was this, this Apple, founder Steve Jobs. There was this again WhatsApp message. He says that when he was about to die, 56 years old, he started asking the question, what I have achieved in my 56 years of life. I have earned a huge amount of money. I have come out with great innovations. I have got a lot of name for myself, my company, everything profits. I could travel wherever I want. But at the end of the day, I am happy. Whatever that I have achieved in my life, did it help me to survive even for one more second than what my lifespan is? Did it help me to have that kind of peace of mind? All through my life, I was living with so much of tension, pressure. Why? Because in this highly competitive world, capitalistic world, you can survive only when you are at your best. You have to give your best. At the end of the day, he asked the question, if I have to travel from, say, New York to Washington, if I take a normal commercial flight, the distance will be the same, time will be the same. If I travel in my private jet, it will be the same. How does it really matter? I did not realize this truth. By the time he realized it, he died also. That is what, that is what I said, finding the real truth of life. Real happiness does not lie in materialistic comforts or, it does not lie in relationships. Real happiness lies in, as we study in our ethics paper, real happiness lies in making others happy with our efforts without expecting anything from them. That is what is real happiness. And that is the essence of life. And that is what humanity should be. God means what? God means, how do we define God? God means absolute bliss. That means complete happiness. What is the reason why God is always happy? Because He always will be able to come to the rescue of His devotees whenever they are in need of Him. And the entire process of making His devotees happy is what gives Him ultimate happiness. He feels their emotions, He feels their sufferings, and that is what is the essence of life, and that is what humanity should be. This is what you have to write for this essay again. Again, as I said, these kind of essays require in-depth knowledge of life. That is why we say that our entire journey of life is all about our journey towards our inner self. And we always think that our journey of life is all about our journey towards outer world, which is not the case. It is not about retaining positions. It is not about reaching positions. It is not about becoming rich. It is not about acquiring wealth. It is not about acquiring wealth. When Alexander died, just before his death, a Buddhist priest comes and asks Alexander, what have you achieved in your life? When you are dying, that is what Alexander says. I realize the essence of life. I realize only 6 feet of land for me to bury, nothing else. All through my life, I have spent my entire life in acquiring more land, much more land, so on and so forth. I have my entire life is wasted in acquiring this land, which I cannot take even an inch of land with me when I die. That is what the truth of life. So these are the things which you have to write, especially for these kind of essays. And if you are able to write these kind of things, you can definitely expect 70% marks, because that is what UPSC is looking, whether you have that kind of ability to understand, analyze life from a philosophical perspective. Why? Because once you get into services, you will be immersing yourself in materialistic aspects of life, day to day materialistic aspects of life. You will be worrying about your promotions, postings, transfers, and career advancement, and nothing else. Can you be detached yourself? Can you make yourself completely detached from others? That is what they are looking for you. Whether you have the ability to differentiate between what is true and what is not. Next, yeah? Yes, whatever the examples I have given, you have to write them in the examination. What are the examples I have given? In both the things, you have to write them. Next, how to conclude. As I said, this conclusion should be a little bit more futuristic. You can say that when you talk about values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. You say that in the present day materialistic world, wherein the societies are facing problems related to global warming, problems related to uncertainties regarding market life, problems related to conflicts between people, nations over land, everything else. It is the values that should define humanity. There cannot be any compromise with values. The other day you can see that in the United Nations Climate Summit that is going on, this 16-year-old girl from Switzerland, with whatever the little knowledge she has, she was talking about protecting environment. But how can you do that? When can you talk about protecting environment? Only when you have values. That is where everything is related to values, humanity. That is what Mahatma Gandhi would say. He said that earth has sufficient resources to satisfy the needs of the people, but not their greed. These are the things which you can write as part of your conclusion. Otherwise, this is what we say. There is this projection that the world might come to an end. The entire civilization might come to an end. It will not come to an end because of global warming. It will not come to an end because of environmental degradation. It will not come to an end because of high levels of pollution. It will come to an end because of drastic decline in our value systems. That is the reason why there cannot be compromise with our values. We, as human beings, we have left this human part from our existence. We are only living as beings, not as human beings. That is where the problem is. And this is what you can write as part of conclusion. The end of the world, the predictions regarding end of the world might become much more sooner, might be realized much more sooner if we do not realize the fact that it is the values that should define our humanity. It is not a GDP, it is not per capita income, it is not the standard of life, it is not infrastructure, it is not industrialization, it is not materialistic comforts that will be defining a human civilization. It is only the values. That is what you have to write as part of a conclusion. Next, what is best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. What is best for an individual is not best for the society. Again, as I said, you can find this statement in our ethics notes. While studying about ethics, what do we say? What do we say? What is the purpose of ethics? How many of you have studied ethics? In your coaching classes, they did not start ethics for GS? Not yet started. Not yet studied. But what is ethics? Basically, ethics will tell us about how to live our relationship with others in the society. They define our relationship with others in the society. That is why we say that ethics is all about others, not about ourselves. It is all about others. How we should behave with others. They define the parameters of our relationship with others. Why? Because as we keep on saying, human beings are dependent on others for their survival. You take again, what is the difference between human beings and other species on this earth? Other species on this earth, they live independently. They don't have to live as a group. Either they live independently. They don't require the help of others for survival. Take the case of a doctor, this dogs or pigs or snakes, in those, they don't live as a groups. Hundreds of, pigs come and form a society among themselves, saying that pig society of Delhi, they don't have this kind of, they don't have. Similarly, take the case of dogs, you don't have, dog doctors among dogs, dog teachers, dog lawyers. Of course, our doctors, lawyers are much more than dogs. That's a different thing. Okay, that is the difference. As human beings, we are dependent on others. We cannot do anything and everything for ourselves. That is the reason why you require ethics. They define our relationship with others. This is what we study in ethics again. We say that human beings are, our relationship with others is reciprocal in nature. If we do something good to others, they will also do the same thing for us. Human relationships are reciprocal in nature. So the question here is that, the question here is, when we are talking about ethics and our relationship with others, what is the guiding principle regarding our relationship with others? There are two schools of thought here. We talk about in ethics. Two schools of thought. One school of thought says that, please think about your own self-interest. Don't worry about others. Think about your self-interest in terms of your relationship with others. Think about only self-interest. And this self-interest automatically transforms itself into societal welfare. This self-interest transforms itself into societal welfare. This school of thought, was given by Adam Smith, economic and moral philosopher. Adam Smith, economic and moral philosopher. And what did he say? If everyone in the society thinks about his own self-interest in his relationship with others, there is an invisible hand that transforms this self-interest into societal welfare. That is what he said. So that means what is best for an individual will also be best for the society. That is what Adam Smith has said. You don't have to worry about the society. Think about your own, welfare. Think about your own gains. It will automatically good for the entire society also. The second school of thought says that what is good for an individual need not be good for the society. Need not be good for the society. That is the second school of thought talks about. Now the question here is that between these two different schools of thought, which is right? That is what the essay topic is. Best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. That is what we study in our ethics paper when we talk about ethical dilemmas. So now we have to talk about this First, why did Adam Smith say that what is best for an individual is also best for the society? There must be some reason behind it. If you have to support the argument given in the ethics paper, you have to talk about the counter argument. Why it is not true. Then come to this and explain why it is true. That is what is analysis in your ethics papers. So coming back in your essay papers. So when Adam Smith talked about this, why did he say that there is no difference between self-interest and societal welfare? Why did he say that what is best for an individual is also best for the society? There must be some reason. He was trying to explain this from the point of view of what you call economy. Adam Smith, he is also known as the father of economics. Adam Smith. In 1776, he had written a book, An Inquiry into the Wealth of Nations, which had become the Bible for all future economists. Wealth of Nations, wherein he had come out with all these ideas which we are talking about now. And his ideas had become the moral basis for capitalism. Capitalism, after Industrial Revolution, when it was struggling to find respectability, that is when Adam Smith had come out with his idea, wherein he said that what is good for an individual is automatically good for the society also. That is what he said, which provided the moral basis. From then onwards, as we say, capitalism never really looked back. Why? Because in capitalism, what is the objective of a capitalist? To maximize profits. That is what we call self-interest. Capitalism, found the moral strength, behind profit maximization in Adam Smith philosophy, wherein Adam Smith has said that profit maximization is not a dirty word. Everyone can work for their self-interest, individual interest. So what he has said, he just gave a beautiful example here, wherein he said that what is best for an individual is automatically best for the society also. Take the case of a producer. He has, say, 100 crores of rupees with himself. How can he earn money out of this? How can he earn money? If he keep that money with himself, does he get any kind of return? On the other hand, if you are keeping the money with yourself, there is a danger of losing it also. The thieves will come to your house and they can rob you of the entire money. So obviously, you don't want to keep idle cash balances with you. So how can you do then? If you put the money in the bank will give you some rate of interest. But the rate of interest given by bank is so less that, if you look at the inflation and calculate the rate of interest, the real rate of interest would be only negative. So you will not be, no intelligent person will keep the money in the bank. So then what will he do? He has to earn handsome returns. He must start an industry. He must produce goods and services and sell them for a price so that he can earn profits. That is what any rational producer would do, as you study in economics. So, if you have to produce goods and services, what he has to do? Land he has to buy. He has to buy machinery. He has to employ people. He has to buy raw material. That is what he said. If you are buying land, you are creating demand for land, and the landlord will benefit in the form of better remunerative prices for his land. In the same case, machinery, they will earn profits. People will earn wages. Raw material also will earn profits. So, when you are buying land, employing people, buying machinery and raw material, why are you doing all these things? Why are you doing all these things? As a producer, by doing all these things, you want to produce goods and sell them in the market for a price. Normally the profits are always in the range of around 40 to 50% profits, 40 to 50% over the cost of production. If you put the money in the banks, you will be getting around 8% rate of interest. So with your self-interest in mind, this is what you have done. Because you know that if you produce goods and services, you can earn 40-50% profits. So with self-interest in mind, he has done all these things. And what happened? This self-interest has been transformed into what is called societal welfare. It has been transformed into societal welfare. Why? Because when he is buying the land, landlord benefited in the form of better remunerative prices. When he is buying, he is employing people, people get salaries and wages for their survival. Same is the case with machinery and raw material. When he is doing all these things, is he doing all these things to create employment? The objective of this producer is to create employment? No. To create demand for land? To create demand for raw material or machinery? None of them. What is his objective? To make profits. To make profits. His self-interest is what that has transformed into societal welfare here. So many sections of society have benefited because of his self-interest. Similarly, when this landlord is giving land to the industrialist producer, is he giving land because the policy of the government is to promote Make in India? The government says that they want to promote Make in India. Is that the reason why this landlord is giving money to the landlord, industrialist to promote Make in India? Why is he giving land? Why? To earn profits. Similarly, when the labor, is giving his, services to the landlord, to the producer, why is he giving services? To increase the GDP of the country? To ensure rapid growth rate? To come out of recession? No. What is his interest? To support his family. Here, if you look at it, all four of them are working with only self-interest. That is what Adam Smith has said. He said that the beauty of capitalism is that even if every member of the society work with a self-interest, it will benefit the entire society. What is good for an individual will automatically become good for the society also. This is the first argument. That is why Adam Smith has said that forget about other people, forget about charity, forget about welfare, forget about country, society. Think about your own self-interest. As a student, your self-interest lies in getting into services. For that, you have to work hard. When you want to get into IAS or IPS or any other services, what is your motive? What is your objective? To serve the society in a selfless manner? Yeah, am I looking like the interview board member of UPSC who innocently believes all your stupid comments and gives you marks also? You want to get into services because as we study Abraham Maslow, you want to satisfy all your 5 needs, basic needs, security needs, social needs, self-esteem needs and self-actualization needs. Everything else you want to satisfy. Everyone is working with self-interest. If you work hard, you will get into services. And after getting into services, if you are a good person, you can serve the society also. Or else you can serve yourself. That's a different thing. Okay. This is what Adam Smith has said. Students should be working sincerely. So with all professionals in the society, they must work hard. That is what Protestant ethics talk about. Protestant ethics. They say that work is worship. Work is worship. You don't have to go to a temple and pray to God. Treat your work itself as worship. Be sincere, honest in your work. Automatically it will benefit the society. Don't worry about the society. Don't worry about those kind of other motives. Think about yourself. But this argument has so many flaws. That is where the second part of our statement comes, which is given by UPSC as your essay topic. What is best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. So, what is the problem with the argument of Adam Smith here? The problem with the argument of Adam Smith is that if every person thinks about their self-interest, to some extent we can say that it transforms itself into societal welfare, only to some extent. Beyond that, it results only in exploitation. Why? Because there is no limit for self-interest. There is no limit for self-interest. There is no limit for what is called best for an individual. What you consider is the best, there is no limit. What you consider is the best, there is no limit for it. For example, if I ask you the basic question, how much amount of money do you want for the rest of your life, so that you think it is the best? How much amount of money do you want? Can you give any certain amount of figure? You don't. That is what we say. There is no saturation point for everything in life. There is limit for everything. That is what we study in economics. There is saturation point for everything in life, but not for money. What Mukesh Ambani has earned is enough for the next 5,000 generations. For the next 5,000 generations of Mukesh Ambani, they don't have to work at all. They can spend their time preparing for UPSC. Right? They don't have to work at all. Then why is he still earning money? That is the problem with the argument of Adam Smith. What is best for an individual need not, and most importantly, will not be best for the society. Why? Because there is no limit for self-interest. There is no limit for money. There is no limit for profits of capitalists. Will any capitalist come and say that no, we are happy, we don't want profits, no more, we want no more profits? Nobody will say that. Nobody will say that. Why? Because there is no limit. There is no saturation point for money. And that is the reason why, what do we do? In the name of our self-interest, in the name of what is best for us, we will exploit others. We will cheat others. We will manipulate others. That is the reason why capitalism is always a system of manipulation. That is the reason why any society, what we find is cheating, manipulation, exploitation. In the ancient and medieval ages, this exploitation had taken place because of the physical strength. If you are physically strong, you will occupy more kingdoms. You will continue with exploitation. And now, in the present knowledge-based societies, you don't have to be physically strong. You require mental capabilities. You require intelligence to manipulate others. That is the reason why you can see what is common to all the leaders in our society, political, economic, business. All of them have intelligence, knowledge and skills. And for example, for the Prime Minister, what is best for him? To continue in that position for the next 20 years. That is what every political leader wants. Every political leader wants to stay in power forever. Does any political leader come and say that I don't want power? Have you ever seen any political leader in India taking a voluntary retirement from politics? Not at all. Never. You never. Pardon? Sushma Swaraj did not take voluntary retirement. She was forced to take retirement because of her ill health. One, because of a person called Narendra Modi. Two. Okay. So otherwise it was not. She wanted to be the Prime Minister desperately. Prime Minister desperately wanted to be the Prime Minister of the country. in 2014 because she was the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha between 2009 and 2014. In Westminster model of democracy in UK, the leader of the opposition in the lower house will automatically become a prime ministerial candidate. In India, Sushma Swaraj also expected that she would become the prime minister. In between came a person called Narendra Modi. 2013 session of BJP in Goa. That is the reason why Sushma Swaraj, LK Advani and others strongly opposed candidature of Narendra Modi. And that is the reason why he made sure that all those people are kept outside governance. That's a different thing. We are not here to discuss politics, so let us not go into all the things. So what we are saying here is that what is best for an individual need not, and most importantly, will not be best for the society. Why? Because as I said, there is no limit for self-interest. There is no saturation for, there are certain things. Again, we go back to, this philosophical aspects. As we say, desire. Is there any limit for our desire? Is there any limit? Unfortunately, there is no limit. The desire can be for money. The desire can be for, status. It can be for, position. It can be for name, fame. There is no limit. Congress party ruled the country almost 60 years out of our 70 years of independence. Will the Congress party come and say that now we have ruled, we have destroyed India sufficiently for 60 years, let us take break. Give opportunity for others to destroy the country? They don't say that. Why? Because there is no saturation point. That is the reason why, we say that what is best for individual is not necessarily best for the society. On the other hand, you take the reverse of it. What is best for the society can always be best for individual also. What is best for the society can be best for individuals also. What is good for the society can be good for individuals also. Why? Because as we said, as human, as social animals, we are dependent on others for our survival. We are dependent on others for our survival. So, for example, continuing with this, I am a businessman. What is best for me? Profit maximization. That is best for me. Is it good for the society? Let us see why it is not good for the society. I am a local, kirana shop owner, and I sell all these things: vegetables, fruits, milk, all daily items. There are severe floods in my area, because of which people could not go out for 4-5 days. They don't have any access to these basic amenities of life. They have to survive also. I have a good stock of all these things. What should I do? Going by Adam Smith, I have to look for only my self-interest. In economics, we say that the price is always determined on the basis of demand and supply. Supply, is limited. I only have the supply. Demand is huge. What will I do? For my self-interest, I will increase the price. The price of milk otherwise is say 20 rupees, or 40 rupees per litre. I will say that 200 rupees because I am the only one who is supplying. Demand and supply, complete economics, rationality, rational human behavior. That is what we say in economics. So it is good for me because I am making profits. Is it good for the society? That is what we are saying. What is best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. Trickle-down theory also will not work. Trickle-down theory also. That is the reason why development administration, planning in India has been a failure. It is based on the fact that there is trickle-down. The benefits will never trickle down to the lowest level. When will the benefit trickle down to the lowest level? Only when you have what is called humanistic capitalism. Capitalism with a human face. How many entrepreneurs in India share their profits with their workers? How many of them? Never. So trickle down effect theory will never work. That is the reason why, as we said, that is the reason why we had to change our planning process also. In 1970s, Indira Gandhi came out with a direct attack on poverty when trickle down effect has failed. So that is what we say. Best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. On the other hand, as I said, what is best for the society can always be best for an individual. For example, let us look at this, the same businessman. Okay. What is best for the society here? What is best for society? He must be able to sell them at only 40 rupees normal prices. On the other hand, he can give them some kind of discount also by reducing his profits. It might be, it may not be economically beneficial for him immediately, but it will be benefiting the society. Now, tomorrow, he is living in the same locality. Tomorrow he has a problem with his health and he goes to the doctor. Immediately doctor will, provide all kinds of services to him. Why? Because doctor remember what he has done. When the doctor's family needed, milk immediately, he has given the milk without charging anything extra. On the other hand, he had given them at a lesser price also. As we have said, human relationships are reciprocal in nature. Immediately doctor will come to the rescue of this person. On the other hand, if he charges 200 rupees per milk, for milk, the doctor tomorrow he goes, one injection, doctor will say 10,000 rupees. Reciprocal. 10,000 rupees. So, it might be beneficial for you in the short term, in the long term it can have adverse consequences. That is the reason why when there is conflict between, that is what we study in ethics, self-interest versus societal welfare, we should always give importance to societal welfare. That is what this topic is all about. You have to give all these examples. Again, as I said, that those who have attended our ethics classes, they can write all these things. This is what we discussed in ethics. Next, the last essay topic, let us say, the philosophical essays. Courage to accept and dedication to improve are two keys to success. Courage to accept and dedication to improve are two keys to success. So, this is what we say in our journey of life. In our journey of whole life, we must first decide what we want to achieve. We must decide what is success for us. This is what we say. You must have ambitions, goals, objectives or dreams. This is what you must look for, what you want to achieve in our life. Second thing is, you must see how you are going to achieve your targets, how you are going to realize your targets. This is what we say all the time. The journey of success, journey towards success is more interesting at any point of time than the destination itself. Once you realize success, there is nothing else is left. That is what I always say. The whole preparation for IAS at any point of time is more interesting than getting into IAS. After getting into IAS, the life becomes much more boring, mundane, because there won't be any challenge in your life. Because in IAS you don't get any opportunity to, rarely you get an opportunity to display your skills and knowledge and everything else, because you have to work under so many constraints. That's a different thing. So coming back here, the question here is that, as I said, first you have to define success, and it depends on the goals you have set for yourself. Some people, they want only small things. They want some kind of stability in life. So even a group 4, group D job is also enough for them. So they don't have to work hard also. It depends on the goal you have set for yourself in life. And to realize that goal, two things are important, as we keep on saying. First one is, you must have the courage to accept your mistakes. Accept your mistakes, weaknesses. weaknesses. Second, you must have the ability to learn from your mistakes. These two things are necessary for achieving success in life. Yesterday we talked about this ISRO mission. Instead of accepting the mistake in a courageous manner, what ISRO is trying to do? They are trying to manipulate the whole scenario, saying that we are 98% successful. What do you mean by 98% successful? In the UPSC examination, can you say that I am 98% successful? That means I reached 2 kilometers near UPSC building. Right? I just have to cross only 2 kilometers. Or maybe, UPSC building is there, you are on the other side of the road. You can say that 500 meters is what separates me from UPSC. Aurangzeb Road. Okay. So you do not know, you do not want, the moment, what is the first sign of a failure? The first sign of failure is not recognizing the failure itself. That is what very, very important. Why do people don't succeed? Why don't they succeed in life? Because, they don't want to recognize their failures. If you remember, this is what I always say in the class, when you are preparing for this examination, two things are important. You should know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. You must maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses so that you can become successful. The same thing, you can give the examples of all the successful people in this world. Take the case of Mahatma Gandhi. He was the first person to recognize his weaknesses. In his childhood onwards, he could accept his mistakes. Once he had stolen money from the pocket of his father. In your childhood, that is what you do. You cannot expect to behave like Gautam Buddha in your childhood. Even Gautam Buddha also had taken 32 years. In between he had done so many silly things also. So, it is but natural for us to commit mistakes. But how much amount of time you take to recognize your mistakes and learn from mistakes? Immediately, Gandhi felt guilty about what he had done. He had written a letter and he put it in the pocket of his father, wherein he said that, yes, I have committed a mistake. I have stolen money from your pocket. Please excuse me, please pardon me. Next time onwards, I will not do that. And please punish me also for my crime. That is what is, courage. Courage is not about, doing, nonsensical things. It is about accepting mistakes. It is about, accepting weaknesses. None of us are perfect. As we said earlier, the entire journey of human life is to find out the eternal truth of life. In the process, we keep on committing so many mistakes. We keep on moving away from the path of success. We have to recognize where we have, gone out of the path and come back. Learn from the mistakes. As I said, Mahatma Gandhi, similarly, when he went to London, for his barrister studies law, when he was asked to argue a case in a London court for the first time, he was standing in front of the British judges there. So many people were there inside the court hall. Gandhi could not even utter a single word. He was enamored by the situation. He became so fearful. The judge kept on asking Gandhi, Mr. Gandhi, please come out here with your arguments. What is your argument in the case? He could not speak a single word. And then he ran away from the courtroom because he could not. Then he recognized his weakness. After that, the same Gandhi had become one of the best speakers the world has seen. With the call given by Gandhi, millions of people in the country had sacrificed everything, their life, money, property, assets, in the freedom struggle. That is what, when you talk about recognizing your weaknesses. Similarly, again continuing with Gandhi only, if you look at it, his life is full of, as we discussed yesterday, experiments, finding out about, as the statement that was given yesterday, Socrates, and the unexamined life is not worth living also. That is what he kept on experimenting with his, to try to find out his weaknesses. And that is the reason why he adopted this brahmacharya, one of the principles that we talk about in Jainism, 5 principles in Jainism. He adopted truth, he adopted non-violence. These are all the things which he adopted. In the process, he found so many problems. He recognized his weaknesses. Gandhi knew that he had a problem with his temper, short-tempered person. Gandhi used to get very angry. For that, what did he do? He simply adopted this Maun Vrat. He would not speak to people. Simple. Then when you are not speaking to people, even if you get extremely angry with them, how do you react? You will not react. Automatically you can overcome your anger. That is what, when we study in ethics paper also, anger management means being able to remain silent. That is what, you have to recognize your weaknesses, accept your faults, and then, take steps, to rectify your faults. Give your own example, while writing these kind of answers. You can give the example of the mistakes that you have committed in the previous attempts. And you say that these were the mistakes I have committed in my previous attempts while preparing for UPSC. And in this attempt, I try to make sure that I will not be committing the same mistakes, so that I can commit new mistakes. Okay. So that is what, why are you committing new mistakes? Because in the future again you can learn from, right? There are 2 ways here. One is you can learn from mistakes of others. You can learn from mistakes of others. Second, learning from your own mistakes. Which one do you think is good for you? We always believe in committing mistakes. Learning from experience is the most important thing. That is what we think. That is the reason why when we say, courage to accept, courage to accept not only, our own mistakes, in general the mistakes committed by others. You don't have to commit the same mistakes for yourself. But you must have the courage. That is what the problem with the human personality. We are highly egoistic people. Egoistic people. We are highly egoistic people. We don't want to accept any of our weaknesses or mistakes. When Indira Gandhi in 1970s came out with a Garibi Hatao slogan, wherein she said that Garibi should be hataud, poverty should be removed. You might not be understanding Hindi. That is the reason why Hindi should be made a national language. When she said that poverty should be removed, she said that poverty should be removed in 5 years' time. When it was not removed, she blamed everyone. Whenever we face any failure, the natural human tendency is always to blame others for our failure. She blamed everyone. She blamed bureaucracy, she blamed media, she blamed political parties, she blamed parliament, she blamed judiciary, but not herself. That is the reason why people can never progress in their life. We can progress in our life only when we learn to accept our mistakes. Otherwise the easiest way is to throw the blame on other person's shoulders. Is that what we do or not? Exactly, it is what we do in our life. If we are not, that is what we study again at the end of the day in ethics paper. The peace that you are seeking for yourself is there within you only. How can you get that kind of peace, inner peace? Only when you accept your mistakes and rectify those mistakes. On the other hand, if you are trying to peace in externally, you can never find real peace. Why? Because you will be blaming everyone else when you don't have peace of mind. And that is what again the topic talks about. At the end of the day, progression, is possible only when we accept our mistakes and, we dedicate ourselves to improve. those mistakes. You can, for these kind of essays, as I said, you have to give lots of examples from your own life, from the life of great people also, from the life of other great people. What is the difference between great and ordinary people? Great people are those people who are willing to learn from their mistakes and who are first have the courage to accept their mistakes and to learn from their mistakes. That is the reason why in this entire civilization you don't find any great people as such. Everyone is a normal human being also. Why? Because as I said, that is what we discussed earlier also. Enlightenment is not possible. It is possible only when we do thorough analysis of ourselves. The journey is always about our inner self. This is what we say. And then, you can give from the point of view of the society also. This is from the point of view of individuals. Talk from the point of view of society and the country. For example, countries, why don't they progress? They don't progress because they are not willing to accept their mistakes first. Second, they are not willing to rectify them. Give the example of America, what America is doing now. America has committed a mistake by starting the trade war with China, which taking the entire world into recession. You must have the courage to accept the mistake, Donald Trump, and rectify your mistake. At one point of time he said that yes, it was wrong on his part to start the trade war with China, but he does not have the will to rectify the mistake. Why? Because ego will come into picture here. Yesterday also when he was speaking, he said that America is the most developed country in the world. Accepted. With power comes responsibility. Is America willing to take the responsibility? Not at all. With great power comes more responsibility. That essay topic that was asked previous here. Power is not only about exercising authority over others, it is all about taking the responsibility for others also. For that, you must have the courage to accept mistake. Take the case of India. The present day recession the country is facing. The government is not willing to accept the mistakes. First the government has to come forward and say that yes, demonetization, even though done with the best of intentions, resulted in unwanted, unforeseen consequences. Accept it. Accept the fact that the implementation of GST was a faulty one. Then come out with solutions. On the other hand, when you start blaming everyone, when you start blaming millennials for decline in auto sales, obviously, you can never achieve success. That is what happens to the country's entire globe, individuals as well as the society. Similarly, you have to accept the fact that in Jammu Kashmir, problem is not about Article 370, abrogation or inclusion. Problem is about how to, emotionally integrate Kashmiris into Indian Union. Then you will take remedial measures. In essay, you can write about these things. In general studies papers, you cannot write about these things. In essay, your scope is much wider. You can talk about these things because UPSC is looking for this kind of independent voices. As we discussed yesterday in case studies also, civil servants are expected to provide unbiased, meritorious and rational suggestions. For that they need courage of conviction. That is what is required. So you can write from individual perspective as well as the society, country and from the perspective of the entire globe. Similarly, take the case of the entire globe. We are not willing to learn from our mistakes. We know the fact that global warming, environmental degradation is only because of the kind of lifestyle we have, materialistic lifestyle. And we don't want to accept that fact. We start blaming anything and everything, everyone. And we never learn from our mistakes. Why? Because you require a huge amount of courage to accept your mistakes. Why? Because capitalism would not let us to move away from materialistic lifestyle. Capitalism will not let us to move away from materialistic lifestyle because in capitalism, success is measured only in terms of materialistic comforts. So you want centrally air conditioned houses which emit dangerous CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. You want diesel run vehicles which pollute your environment. You want all the materialistic comforts which makes sure that you always move away from the nature, living artificial life. The water we drink, artificial. The air we breathe, artificial. And we talk about global warming. That is what yesterday that girl beautifully said, future generations are, you're not at all concerned about future generations. You are only so selfish in your approach, you are only thinking about yourself. That is where again you bring about these things. You can answer these kind of essays from all these dimensions. At the end of the day, what is required is whether you have the ability to integrate. As we keep on saying in our classes, you must prepare for this examination in a holistic manner. Don't divide the syllabus into polity or economy or administration or culture or society or ethics or geography or history. Just try to understand from a macro perspective by integrating all the things. Then it becomes almost a cakewalk for you, this examination. Let us look at some of the essays in section B. They are very straightforward. They don't require much of discussion, because if you are good with your GS, you can answer all of them. For example, look at the second one. Neglect of primary health care and education in India are reasons for its backwardness. If you remember, that is what we studied in our classes, polity governance or Indian administration, all these classes. What is the biggest weakness of our planning process? Nehruvian planning, 5-year plans. Nehruvian planning process only focused on physical infrastructure. Nehru believed in constructing dams. He believed in constructing public sector enterprises. He believed in constructing roads. But he completely ignored social infrastructure. Two important weaknesses of Nehruvian planning, as we kept on saying, are his complete neglect of health and education. And after liberalization, after 1991, we thought that we would do some kind of justice. After liberalization, what we call post-planning era also, we continued with the same thing. We focused only on physical infrastructure. We believed that it is the physical infrastructure that will help us to ensure rapid growth and development of the country. I remember, while talking about these things in our class, I said that there was a beautiful article in Times of India, Sunday Times of India, written by Swaminathan S. Iyer. The same article was asked as essay here. As I keep on saying, your preparation for this examination will start and end with newspaper reading. Nothing else. In that article, Swaminathan S. Iyer, he writes beautifully about why India growth rate has stagnated. Why there is so much of stagnation? We were growing between 2003 and 2011, almost 9% per annum. After that, we have seen decline in growth rates. After that, we have seen decline in growth rates. For some point of time, it has stagnated. Now, it has decelerated. Why? And he gave the example of communist China. He gave the example of China. He said that why China is able to sustain its growth rate. From 1980s, China started liberalizing from 1980s. We are in almost 2020. 40 years, 4 decades. How could China sustain this growth rate? Why? Because China invested heavily in these two sectors, education and health. That is the reason why what you call it as a, fourth industrial revolution, fifth industrial revolution. You are talking about all of them. All of them are taking place in China only. Why? Why? Because China has given importance to these two things. And in India, successive governments in the post-liberalization era, they have completely neglected these two things. What is the reason why we could grow at 9% per annum during the initial phases of liberalization and globalization? Because the entire growth rate was due to our software sector, service sector. And after some point of time, there is stagnation here. We did not go towards the next stage of a revolution. The next stage of revolution took place in what is called artificial intelligence. Then it took place in biochemicals and biotechnology. It took place in space. It took place in communications, 5G. In India, you don't find any of these things. There is no R&D, research and development in India. That is the reason why when China is progressing so much, India has stagnated. The government is trying to find reasons for deceleration in economic growth in terms of immediate factors like decline in automobile sales and so on and so forth. Take the case of automobile sector only. This automobile sector benefited hugely because of economic boom that had taken place in India in the first decade of our millennium, 2000s. There was so much of economic boom which benefited automobile sector. This automobile industry earned a huge amount of profits. What did they do? They did not use these profits in a productive manner. In Western countries, what do? They spend a good amount of their profits on research and development. If you look at again automobile industry in India, to produce a car in India, it costs 40% more than production of the same car in Europe or in America. If they had spent money on research and development, they could have reduced cost of production by 40%. They would not have begging in front of the government to reduce GST from 28 to 18%. They would not have. That is the importance of education, and that is what he talks about it. India never invested in education, whether it is primary education, secondary or higher education, research and development. All these things, we never really bothered. On the other hand, we always believe in coming out with gigantic schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, where outcomes are never given importance. That is the reason why, that is what economic survey says. In India, skilled labor force, we have only around 2% of our population which can be called skilled labor force who can get productive employment in the private sector. Only 2%. In a country like South Korea, 96% of the labor force is skilled. That is the reason why country can never become a developed country. That is the importance of education. We don't invest. Why? Because I gave you this example also. One more example which I gave you in the class. Let us try to recall. What did I say? In the recent elections, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in the election campaign, he repeated the word nationalism more than 170 times. He did not mention either education or health even once in the entire campaign. Not only Prime Minister, you take opposition leader also, Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi repeated the word poverty. He repeated his scheme, pet scheme. What is that? Nyay. Hundreds of times. But he did not do any nyay to education or health. That is where the problem with India. As I keep on saying, you must really observe the society. These are the things which you have to write in the examination that will give you marks. Unfortunately in India, elections are fought only in terms of what you call fabricated issues, not in terms of real issues. Elections are fought in the name of either patriotism, nationalism, corruption, or schemes, welfare scheme, or subsidies, what we call it as subsidies. No election in India since the first general election in 1950s till 2019, in not even a single election, either education or health, is an issue that determined electoral outcomes. Whereas, as I said, you require visionary leadership for those things. China has that kind of leadership. What if China is a dictatorship? But they have visionary leadership. They could realize the fact that in the future, It is only the human resources who are going to count. In the industrial revolution, it was the machinery, that really increased the GDPs of countries around the world. In the service sector, it is only the human resources. China has recognized. That is the reason why in the last 40 years, China has invested so much in their education, R&D. That is the reason why every new product that is coming out in the world has a Chinese tag attached to it. And that is the reason why America is fearful of China now. The fifth generation technology, 5G. America is literally shivering because America could not do those kind of things. That is where we talk about these things. And that is what you have to write for this, for this kind of essays. Yes. Primary healthcare and education. Primary healthcare, PHC, that is what we studied again as part of health. In India, we neither have preventive nor curative systems. Yes, preventive means by providing nutritious food, by providing safe drinking water. As we have said, more than 90% of diseases in India in rural areas can be cured only by providing safe drinking water. I gave you one more example, if you remember. This is what we said. What is the problem with ICDS? If you remember, what is the problem with ICDS? Integrated Child Development Scheme. Why it is a failure? Why? Because these poor children, they don't have access to nutritious food because of which they become unhealthy. When they become unhealthy, they go to ICDS centers. What do the doctors do in ICDS centers? Give them nutritious food and safe drinking water for 1 week. Automatically they recover. And once they recover, they are sent back to their houses. Within 15 days, again because of lack of nutritious food and unsafe drinking water, again they become unhealthy and they will go to ICDS centers. And the government says that ICDS centers are doing excellently. It is government always says that probably that ICDS is one of the most successful program of the government. When children are going to ICDS centers, it is not called success, it is a failure. Why do they go? Only when they are unhealthy. Why they are unhealthy? Because they don't have access to nutritious food and safe drinking water. And we gave the example, PHCs, primary healthcare in India. I remember that is what we discussed also. This year definitely question will be about primary healthcare because of what happened in Bihar and what happened in Uttar Pradesh last year, Gorakhpur. Hundreds of children died, just because of the complete, collapse of a primary healthcare system in India. In Bihar, the survey was conducted wherein it was found that in 98% PHCs do not exist at all. In remaining 2%, they are there, but there are neither doctors nor staff nor medicines. In most of the PHC buildings, they were used, as houses for buffaloes and other people, other animals. That is what. And the thing here is that the government is spending huge amount of money on PHCs. Outlays are not transformed into outcomes. Whatever we have discussed in the class, if you are to be writing all those things, again you will score at least 75 out of 125. Just whatever we discussed in the class, that should be more than enough. Preventive as well as curative measures. Yes. Healthcare is both prevention as well as curing. You must prevent the diseases. Healthcare is about, as we have studied National Health Policy 2017, it talks about first prevention. Next, if you look at the other topics also, let us look at the topic, the first one. South Asian societies are woven not around the state, but around their plural cultures and identities. How do you answer these kind of things? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? South Asian societies are woven around, not around the state, but around their plural cultures and identities. First of all, you have to understand the statement before writing something. When you talk about any society, this is what again we go back to our ethics paper. What are the important sources of ethics for any society? As we said, first God and religion, then the state. State. So, if you look at the civilization, the whole history of human civilization, what is the difference between Western and South Asian or Indian civilization? What is the difference? In Western countries, the entire civilization developed around the state, especially after Renaissance, industrial revolution, the Renaissance movement in Europe. It is the state in the Western countries which dominated the lives of the people in Western countries. Liberal democratic ideals of Western civilization have come into existence because of the dominance of the state. It is the state that inculcated these values in the societies. That is what we say about the history of Western countries. As a question that was asked in your General Study Paper 1, again as I said, all of them are interrelated. French Revolution and American Revolution have influenced our values also. This French Revolution, American Revolution, what all this German Revolution, and revolution did not take place in UK because UK has only evolution. It has taken place over a period of time. There is no need for revolution in UK. What is common to all of them? Once all these revolutions had taken place, it is the state that dominated the cultural discourse of the societies. It is the state that influenced the cultural systems. It is the state that controls the cultural systems. Tomorrow when we discuss in a polity governance paper, that is what we say, the difference between India and France in terms of secularism. In France, secularism is imposed by the state on people. In India, secularism is part of our culture. It has been there in our society for thousands of years. That is the reason why Indian concept of secularism is different from French concept of secularism. In Indian concept of secularism, state recognizes all religions. It recognizes the cultural habits of each and every religion. State treats every religion equally and does not discriminate against them. State protects the cultural freedoms of religion. Whereas in the French concept of secularism, it has come in a difficult circumstances. It is a concept that is against the dominance by the Roman Catholic Church. That is the reason why state completely ensures that there is no place for religion in the activities of the state. And the state ensures that these religious customs, traditions and habits are controlled by the state in the name of secularism. That is the reason why in a country like France, the government imposes ban on wearing burqas. The government imposes ban on wearing turbans by Sikhs. Because these religious symbols, which the French government believes, will only result in creating differences among the people. Whereas in India, we only talk about completely different things. Why? Because these are the things which have come to us naturally over a period of time, thousands of years. That is what the essay is about. South Asian societies are woven not around the state, but around their plural cultures and identities. So, what are the plural cultures and identities that we are talking about here in South Asian societies? What are the plural cultures and identities that we are talking about here in India? We talk about multi-religious societies, multi-linguistic, multi-ethnic societies. And in a country like India, you have multiple castes. Each caste has its own custom religions, and customs, traditions and values. Each caste has its own. Then, regional differences. regional differences. And all of them combined together defined, as the question says, all of them combined together defined the functioning of societies, with the state playing what you call it as a passive role. State playing a passive role in the functioning of societies. That is what we say in a country like India, it is the ethics, morals and values that influence the lives of the people than the state. State's role is what is called minimalistic in nature. Minimalistic. Whenever state tries to become powerful, it faces a strong reaction from the society. Take the case of the government trying to make Hindi the national language. Take the case of government bringing in uniform civil code. Take the case of government interfering in tradition and customs of people. There is so much of resistance in Kerala against entry of women into temple, Shabarimala temple. Why? Because that is what we study. It is the ethics, cultures, customs, traditions and norms which are more powerful than the state in South Asian societies. The government never interferes. Whereas in the Western countries, it is the state which is extremely powerful. It does not allow these institutions to influence the functioning of societies in the Western countries. Why? Because, as I said, after Renaissance and after revolutions, people have given up voluntarily all their freedoms and rights in favor of the legitimacy of the state. They believed that the state would be in a better position to take care of their needs. That is the reason why they have sacrificed their freedoms. That is the reason why in France, when the government comes out with a ban on burqas, you don't find people revolting. They will accept. That is the reason why they think that the state is in a better position to decide all those things. Whereas in India, if you look at the evolution of our societies, it is only these things which defined the evolution of our societies. Why? Because one of the important reasons is that in India, we have our own government only for the last 70 years. Before that, India was ruled by the Britishers. And the Britishers, coming to the historical perspective here, Britishers, they tried to interfere in our traditions and customs and cultures up to 1857. When successive governor generals tried to introduce reforms in Hindu society, Lord William Bentinck, other governor generals, some of them abolished sati, some of them abolished child marriages, some of them abolished, encouraged widow remarriages. It has angered, the conservative sections of society in India. That is one of the reasons for what you call Sipahi mutiny. That is the reason why from 1857 onwards, British government had taken a conscious decision not to interfere in our traditions, customs and cultures. That is the reason why British government had come out with what you call Criminal Procedure Code, CRPC, which is same for everyone. But the Civil Procedure Code is different for every religion. We don't have what is called Uniform Civil Code. You don't have Uniform Civil Code. These are the things which you will be writing. Again, to write these kind of essays, you need knowledge of history, you need knowledge of anthropology and sociology. Whatever I have mentioned till now is called anthropology and sociology. You may not be knowing it, but that is what is. What is anthropology? Evolution of mankind. What is sociology? Defines the dynamics of relationship between different institutions and people in the society. You need knowledge of culture, ethics, philosophy, polity to explain these things. As I keep on saying again the same thing, I come back to the same thing. You need an integrated perspective. You have to learn all these things from the point of view of knowledge, not from these artificial distinctions in the name of sociology, politics, history or culture or anything like that. Then only you will integrate all of them. And once you integrate all of them, as I said that essay is one paper, you can easily score 150 marks. And then if you look at other things, biased media is a real threat to Indian democracy. This is a very straightforward one. Even you people can write. And if I discuss this kind of topics also, it is below your dignity. Right? So that is what biased media is a threat to, a real threat to Indian democracy. Why? Because as we said, media is the fourth pillar of democracy. Independent, unbiased media is necessary to ensure accountability in democracy. In India, democracy is not fully developed. In India, what we say that the structures are there, but the functioning of these structures, democratic structures, is completely feudal in nature, and there is no accountability. In India, when people reach positions of power, they believe that they are above law. Rule of law is not applicable either in letter or in spirit. Especially when they are in positions of power, they cannot be touched by law. There is no accountability. In parliamentary democracy, political executive is not directly accountable to the people. They are only responsible to the people at the time of elections, but there is no legal accountability. Unlike in foreign countries, wherein election manifestos are called legal documents. That is, if you don't fulfill the promises made in election manifestos, you can be punished, you can be sent to jail. In India, that is not the case. You can make any kind of promises in elections to win elections. And if they are not fulfilled, people cannot do anything. That is where the problem. And that is where you require media. You require independent, unbiased media to make our executive accountable for their performance. As we mentioned the other day also, according to United Nations, independent media is vital for effective functioning of democratic systems, especially in a developing country like India, wherein the structures, neither the structures nor the traditions are fully developed. It is the media which is expected to ensure accountability. And you talk about what are the problems and what could be the solutions also. These kind of essays are very easy. But again, in these kind of essays, you have to give proper examples where media has failed in its functions in recent past to make executive accountable for their performance. You have to come out with, as I said, essay is one paper where you can, you need not be bureaucratic in your answers and come out with solutions. Next, rise of artificial intelligence, the threat of jobless future or better job opportunities to reskilling and upskilling. Again, this is very straightforward. The basic problem that India is facing at this point of time is two types of problems. One is unemployment, second underemployment. Third one is uncertainty regarding employment also. These are all the things. Unemployment, underemployment, uncertainty regarding employment. Why? Because it is said that with artificial intelligence, what we call it as which stage of industrial revolution? AI. Fourth stage? Fourth or fifth? Let us take it as 4.5. Average. So, whatever may be the stage of industrial revolution, what it is believed is that this artificial intelligence will have a huge amount of impact on employment. Not only in India, all around the world. What we call it as jobless growth. This is a phenomena that stirs all the economies around the world thanks to artificial intelligence. Robotic technologies, they are reducing the contribution of mankind, human beings at a workplace to almost zero. Because everything is performed. You can see even the most complicated surgeries are being performed very easily by robots. And you don't require doctors. Then what will happen to doctors? They will become patients. Right? Depression. depression. They will become patients. You have driverless cars. What will happen to drivers? They have to stand in front of the car. That is what is happening. Similarly, in the software sector, people are losing jobs. Every day you don't know whether you are going to get the pink slip or not. Nowadays, with the thanks to technology, they're not going to give you any pink slips also. They will send you WhatsApp message. The companies, pleased to announce you that your services have been terminated with immediate effect. We are pleased to inform you that you have done human service to the organization. We will wish you best of luck in your future. We know that there is no luck, but we will wish you best of luck. And that is what is happening all around the world, industrial organizations, service sector, wherever you find only this robotics and artificial intelligence. Now the question, as the statement says, is it a threat to jobless future? Definitely it is a threat. We don't have to be what you call civilized in our in our arguments. Definitely it is a threat. Why? Because when a machine can perform the task of 1,000 men, you don't require. Take the case of banks. The best example is the banking sector in India. Banks in the last 15-20 years have removed thousands of people, public sector banks. Why? Because technology. You go to any bank, earlier, 20 years back, a bank means if you go to any bank, it is full of people all the time. So many people working there. Now, it looks like a desert. Only one person will be there. That person is there only. He says that if you have any problem, please call up our full banking system. They will tell you everything. There is no need for people work also. Take the case of banks. These are the things which you have to write. How much employment, how many people were removed by public sector banks in the last 20 years. The number runs into lakhs of people. Jobless growth. Definitely. Why? Because automation. With e-governance. That is the reason why you can see bank employees going on strike. Even recently also, they went on strike. Yes? They called off the strike, I think. Yes. They were supposed to go on strike on 26th and 27th. That is today, tomorrow and after tomorrow. Okay. They called off the strike because the government has assured them that no, there will not be any retrenchment. But they will do the same thing in a different format. They will not say retrenchment. They will say that you upgrade your skills, till then go home. Okay. That is where it is a very serious threat. Definitely, artificial intelligence poses a serious threat to what we call jobless growth in India. It poses a very serious threat. Not only in India, in the entire world. And our second part of the question, better job opportunities through reskilling and upskilling. That is what, recently, there was this beautiful, thing I read sometime back in some of, these sources. They said that the present education system has become so outdated that, it only produces, unemployable people. That means those who can never get any employment. Why? Because what do they test in your present education system? They test your knowledge of, say, CSAT, aptitude, basically, knowledge of, this data interpretation, data sufficient, all these things. Is it required? With the help of your, smartphones, do you require all those things? Not required. Next, it tests your, memory skills. What is the capital of Zambia? What is the capital of Sudan? Where do these following rivers flow? That is what UPSC tests in your prelims language as part of objective type questions. How many sedimentary rocks there in Africa? Do you require this kind of questions? What is Article 14(1) of our Constitution? Do you require this kind of knowledge? This is required when none of the modern devices are available to you. With a smartphone, you can get all these things with a click of, with a touch phone only, not even click of mouse also. Right? Why do they test all these things? That is where the problem with our education system. Because it is still outdated. It is so outdated that it only creates, jobless growth. Why? Because it is not providing the necessary skills. It is not providing the necessary skills for the people. How can you get employment? Because all the skills that you possess, you think you have become outdated in the present modern organizations. And that is what it says. You have to change it. And that is what it says. You have to change it. You have to change it. Either you focus more on values and attitudes, the education system, so that you come out with better, human beings. You come out with what is called capitalism with human face. Or on the other hand, make sure that people acquire all these skills. That is the reason why they say that from the childhood onwards, from the kindergarten onwards, start teaching them this software, computer, because the future is there only in these artificial intelligence, robotics, technologies. Teach them all these things. Tell them how to develop these languages, how to come out with. That is what the future is. You take a case of automobile industry. It is completely becoming mechanized. You don't require the so-called skilled personnel, because a machine will be able to fit in all the instruments in the car very easily in a more efficient manner. Why do they require labor, human labor? Obviously, the prospects are very dim, especially when you talk about this jobless growth. It is a reality which we have to in India. We are not yet facing that reality because we have not developed. On the other hand, as we said, as we discussed in the previous essays, China has already moved towards this. That is the reason why China has changed its education system also. It is spending a lot more on research and development, improving the skills. That is the reason why they are coming out with those technologies. Otherwise, in India, you can find this jobless growth, going to be a very, very serious problem. Because we have a huge amount of surplus labor in agriculture sector. They cannot be shifted to manufacturing sector, because manufacturing sector is nowadays, it is getting highly mechanized. So there is no scope for employment in manufacturing sector. Make in India, the government says that, as part of Make in India campaign, the government says that they wanted to increase the contribution of manufacturing sector in GDP from say 17% to 25%. Even if you are increasing it from 70 to 25%, does it mean that you will have more employment opportunities for people? Definitely not. Why? Because this entire amount of increase in GDP is done with the help of machines only, through artificial intelligence and robotics. Because as a producer, as we have studied again in earlier, I'm only concerned about my self-interest. If I believe that a machine can help me to save 100 crores of rupees, what will I do? Will I think about providing employment to people? Will I employ people for the sake of employment? Obviously not. This is what you have to write for all these topics. Again, as I said, you require very good knowledge of economy. You have to integrate economy with society, with education, with technology, and the right answer. What is the solution? As I said, the solution is change complete the education system. Why do you have to read the useless things like mathematics and all these kind of things? Not required. 20 years back it is required, because you don't have access to smartphones and tablets and computers. Right now every person has more access to them. How do I know? Why do I want to know whether you can calculate what is 100 multiplied by 480? If you do the same thing with your smartphone, it will give you answer immediately. On the other hand, you have this latest technologies. This Google had come out with this, what is that? Which will give you immediately the answer to the question. Google. Yeah. Yes. That is the thing. They are trying to come out with in regional languages also. Alexa, no? What is that? Huh? Amazon, sorry, whatever it may be, Amazon or Google, it does not really matter to me, because I am not a tech savvy person. Okay, I don't use smartphone because I am basically smart. Okay. So yesterday, that is what Supreme Court judge has said. He said that he wishes that there are no smartphones. We wanted to go back to the old Nokia phones. That is what Supreme Court judge has said. So we have to accept the fact that technology is going to be there. Rather than fighting it, we have to use we have to make sure that how better we can use technology. There are going to be no jobs in manufacturing sector in the future. We have to accept it. There are going to be no jobs in the software sector. In fact, most of them will be retrenched. They will be removed. We have to accept it. Where can you find jobs? You don't find jobs. Even in tourism also, you don't require, tourist guides and everything. Why? Because everything is there on your smartphone. Whether you will get information. Hotels, you will get information. You get everything. Why do you require people? So that is where now you can see again, technology in our class also being misused and abused. Okay. So we have to accept it and find a solution. That is where we talk about the visionary leadership. The leadership in the country must be able to, proactive, think about all these problems and come out with solution. On the other hand, what are the solution we are coming out with? Give more money for NREGA. Ensure that, that is what Finance Minister recently said. She said that she wanted the state governments to disburse the wages of NREGA immediately so that there will be more cash in the hands of people. For how long will you implement NREGA? That is the reason why India can never be a developed country. That is what the problem. You have to, as we discussed in the previous essay also, accept the mistakes, rectify it. Yes. Yeah, reskill, it will help. It will help, to some extent. It will help to some extent. For example, you are a software engineer. You have to learn new languages. You have to go into artificial intelligence. That is what is reskilling and upskilling. It will help to some extent. But the solution lies somewhere else. What is that somewhere else solution? Is what you have to write as part of, this essay conclusion. What is the solution? What is the solution? Reskilling and upskilling will help, in the short term, because every day you have to, update yourself in terms of technologies. Then only you can be there in the business. But again, as I said, at the end of the day, this jobless growth is going to be a reality. Then what is the solution? What is the solution? For example, take the case of agriculture. Right now we have so much of labor in our country, free, that is the reason why hundreds of people working there. On the other hand, if you start using crushers, if you start using tractors, if you start using modern techniques, you don't require this labor. At some point of time, our farmers in our country also will become knowledgeable, they will start using them. Then automatically those people also would be losing jobs. Right? Agriculture cannot support people for a long period of time. Then what is the solution? Artificial is going to dominate each and every aspect of our life in the future. You take the case of agriculture, industry, food processing, medicine, biotechnology, space, IT. Everywhere you only find AI, artificial intelligence. It is a factor which we cannot ignore. Then what is the solution? What is the solution to this problem of jobless growth? When the government says that we try to find solution through Make in India, manufacturing sector is the one which can provide employment. This is the case, say 50 years back, 30 years back, manufacturing sector. Now in manufacturing sector also there is complete automation. As I said, gave the example of car industry, car manufacturing. Everything is automated there. The machines, you must have seen, they perform all these things, robots, robotics. So obviously you cannot create employment there. As I said, the solution lies in changing our academic curriculum. From the childhood onwards, children should be taught these skills so that they can find, if they cannot find employment in other industries, they can become employers for themselves. Entrepreneurship. The government has to encourage entrepreneurship among young people in India. Rather than looking for safe havens for employment, they must become entrepreneurs. They have to come out with their own technologies. They have to come out with their own innovations. That is where, right from the primary school itself, emphasis should be on innovations. Emphasis should be on learning new skills. Nowadays you don't require any of these things. Geography, history, all these things are not necessary in the academic curriculum. Why? Because all these things are there on your smartphone at any point of time. If you want, if you are going to a particular place, immediately type the place, find out what it is. For that you don't have to read history or culture. Why do you read history or culture? Because you should know about your society. Everything is there in your smartphone. Similarly, why do you have to read geography? You will know about entire geography of the world. It is there at your fingertips. Remove all these things. In education system, focus on this acquiring new skills right from the childhood onwards. But how this reskilling and upskilling should be done? This reskilling and upskilling cannot be done when they join the job. It should be from the childhood onwards. That is where we are providing the solution. That is what is a visionary. You must be able to, completely, whether CBSE or ICSE or state boards, they must completely remove the entire syllabus. Throw that into the dustbin. It is not required at all. Not at all required. Our education system focuses more on what? It focuses more on memory. You have to mugging up things. You have to remember the capitals of all the 29 states. You don't have to remember do all those things. Everything is there in your smartphone now. It's a waste of time. You are spending 15 years of your education learning useless things. Once you come to the job market, you find that none of them are necessary. If you are a leader with a vision, that is what you have to do. That is what you have to write for this question. Ultimately, the solution lies in rapid, radical transformation of our education system. On one hand, it should focus on values, inculcating values. On the other hand, it should focus on reskilling and upskilling. It should focus on research and development. It should focus on innovation. It should focus on creativity. That is the last thing that we can talk about our education system. CBSE. It focuses only on one thing, your ability to mug up the things. That is where the problem is. And that is what the solution you have to give for this kind of essays. As you can see, all of them are at the end of the day are related. But you will get marks when you write in a creative manner. Two things are needed. As I said, you require two things to write a good essays. From where we started, we will be ending with the same thing. You need good knowledge of ethics. Not ethics does not mean mechanical aspects of ethics. You need good knowledge of life. What is a human being? What is the essence of life? How to become a good person? That is first aspect. Second one is you need good functioning knowledge of your society from the point of view of economy, history, geography, culture, education, health, everything else. And you must be able to integrate all of them while writing answers. Again, as I said, essays, whether you like it or not, truth is the most difficult thing in this world to digest. That is what they say in English. Truth is the most difficult thing in this world to digest. That is the reason why we always believe in living in lies. What is the truth here? Essays do not require any preparation. As I said, the entire preparation of UPSC can be done in 8 months. Yesterday I said that ethics paper does not require more than 10 days. Essays, no preparation at all. Whether you like it or not, it is your wisdom that can help you to realize this truth. Right, that is where we can stop it here for today, and tomorrow we will look at polity governance paper.